Who's plunging the world into World War III? It's a dramatic question, maybe even overused, but this time, it might not be hyperbole. Because while the world watches Gaza burn and missiles light up the skies over Tehran and Tel Aviv, the real battle may be much bigger and much closer.
The strikes were a spectacular military success. Iran's key nuclear enrichment facilities have been completely and totally obliterated. Iran, the bully of the Middle East, must now make peace. If they do not, future attacks will be far greater and a lot easier.
Over the past 6 months, Israel, Iran, and the United States have all taken actions that individually seem strategic, but together, they form a deadly web of escalation. So who's really driving the world toward all-out war? Let's break it down. Back in late 2024, Israel's war against Hamas entered its bloodiest phase.
Israel with an unprecedented attack. Hamas sent in scores, if not hundreds of fighters by land, by sea, and even by air. Israeli officials have already confirmed several dozen deaths, hundreds of people have been wounded, and those numbers are only expected to climb.
But in the background, something far more dangerous was brewing: a direct confrontation with Iran. It began as a shadow war: cyber attacks, sabotage, drone strikes on weapons convoys in Syria. But by early 2025, Israel took the gloves off. In January, it launched Operation Black Dagger, killing several senior IRGC commanders in Damascus. In February, a series of coordinated assassinations targeted Iranian nuclear scientists in Isfahan and Shiraz. Tehran responded with missile launches, but the real blow came later. On June 13th, Israel launched full-scale preemptive airstrikes across Iran. Dozens of sites were hit, including Natanz, Arak, and Parchim. Israel's jets flew almost uncontested over Iranian airspace, an intelligence triumph for Mossad, and a massive escalation. But the targets were telling. Most of the strikes focused not on Iran's regular army, but on the Revolutionary Guard, the IRGC. That's a key detail, because it hints that Israel's goal may not just be disarmament. It may be regime change. And in case there was any doubt, Israel dubbed the campaign Operation Rising Lion, a possible nod to Iran's pre-revolution monarchy. Iran, caught off guard and humiliated, had to respond. And it did. Wave after wave of drones and missiles were launched at Israeli air bases, command centers, and radar stations. Tel Aviv was hit, casualties mounted, but Israel's Iron Dome and David's sling systems intercepted most of them. Still, Iran had made its point. But here's the problem. Tehran can't afford an all-out war. Internally, the regime is fragile. Externally, its proxies like Hezbollah are weakened after years of fighting. And its ballistic missile stockpile, while formidable, is finite. So Iran is playing a dangerous balancing act. Respond just enough to maintain deterrence, but not so much that the US enters the war. That brings us to the third player in this triangle. Publicly, the US insists it doesn't want war. President Donald Trump has urged de-escalation, and the Pentagon says it's focused on defense. But the facts on the ground tell a different story. Over the last 6 months, the US has deployed 2 carrier strike groups to the Mediterranean, sent additional troops to Iraq and Syria, authorized the sale of thousands of precision-guided bombs to Israel, and most recently launched airstrikes on Iranian-backed militias in Iraq and Yemen. All of this while quietly greenlighting Israeli operations. And then there was the Ted Cruz interview with Tucker Carlson.
you're the one who seems a little uncomfortable when I'm asking.
No,
this.
not uncomfortable at all.
I'm just asking what AIPAC does. My understanding, having known a lot of people who work at AIPAC, is that it lobbies on behalf of the Israeli government.
Wrong.
That interview, published just weeks before Israel's June airstrikes, was more than rhetoric. It was a signal. Cruz, a senior U.S. senator, openly framed war with Iran as inevitable. He called for preemptive action. Carlson, for all his skepticism, didn't push back hard. What's more alarming is the bipartisan silence that followed. No major U.S. leaders condemned the sentiment. Some even echoed it. And behind closed doors, defense contractors are booming. Raytheon, Lockheed, Northrop, they're all benefiting. More war means more weapons, and maybe more votes in an election year. Make no mistake, what's happening isn't limited to Israel and Iran. Already, the Houthis have resumed missile attacks on U.S. ships in the Red Sea. U.S. bases in Iraq are under daily fire. Saudi Arabia is reinforcing border defenses, and rumors are swirling that Iran may test a nuclear device if the conflict escalates further. Meanwhile, Israel's hardline government continues to speak of existential threats, while Iran frames the war as a battle for sovereignty. Neither side is backing down, and in the middle sits America.
It's painful for both parties, but I'd say Iran is not winning this war.
Arming one side, bombing the other's proxies, and walking ever closer to direct confrontation. So back to the question, who is plunging the world into World War III? Is it Israel with its strategic strikes and hints at regime change? Is it Iran with its retaliation and nuclear brinkmanship? Or is it the United States, arming, escalating, and talking out both sides of its mouth? The truth is, it's all three. Each thinks they're avoiding disaster. Each believes the other is the aggressor. But in this triangle of power, fear, and ambition, miscalculation is inevitable. And history tells us, wars don't always start with plans. Sometimes they start with patterns. And this one is already in motion.